collection service to be performed by an experienced and qualified collector for the purpose of collecting past due utility accounts. The city would like to use Armada Corp. To be the company to provide this service. The recommended action tonight is to authorize the mayor to sign the personal service agreement with Armada Corp. For the purpose of accounts receivable collection.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any council discussions? John?
Mr. Mayor, I rise in opposition to this ordinance or this bill number. It's very interesting time-wise because we've been discussing a very similar issue in my business. Do we use collections to go after our patients who do not pay? The ones that come in, they maybe miss a copay or, pay too little or what have you. And that's been an issue we've actually been kicking around the private sector. And we came to the conclusion that those patients that we see that are not able to afford even the $20 or $100 that they owe us, and it's not a lot of them, but it is enough that we were considering collections. Those particular patients are not paying after being requested to pay because they can't afford to pay. They are the lowest on the rung. They are the ones who are struggling to make it month to month. And if they can't even afford to pay us the $20 maybe that they owe or the $100 that they owe, going after them for collections would be like squeezing blood out of a turnip. And I think in the same vein, we already have the mechanism in place to place a lien on property for people who don't pay their utility taxes, and we also have the power to shut off the utilities as well. Those two powers alone, I think, are persuasion enough. I know in my personal finances, when we're looking at paying bills, we always start with the water first. We start with the electric first. Then we move to the mortgage. Then we move to the least important things. And we start with those because those are the most essential. And if these people that we are considering putting in collections can't even pay the most essential, how do we think that we're going to get money out of them to pay these bills? I think we're going to end up really just spinning our wheels and spending our time going after something that really should be taken care of at the time of the sale of the house, or when they get desperate enough for water, they're going to come and pay and get the thing turned on again. So that's my position on this.
Other council members?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I rise also in opposition to this agenda bill. What concerns me most about this agenda bill is that it's easy to establish this service with a collections agency when we're talking about contractors or when we're talking about certain specific cases which can seem like they make a lot of sense to use this for. And I've heard an argument for that in previous discussions with the city. However, once we establish this relationship with the collections agency, it'll be far too easy to use this tool for all past due accounts, including the ones that Councilmember Russell mentioned. And once the paradigm is accepted for the most glaring situations, I believe it can easily be used for less clear-cut situations. And when it does come to contracts, I believe that all parties involved should be held to the standards of that contract. However, I believe there are also other ways of enforcing the contract. And this particular solution, I believe, would only antagonize our constituents, and I'll be voting no. And I yield the floor.
Thank you, Michael. Other council comments? I know in working through this with the staff, one of the things a couple things I want to make sure and point out, certainly coming from the finance department staff, our staff themselves have done an extremely good job and an admirable job in working with a number of our citizens and businesses and that type that get into financial straits and cannot pay those bills, to the point where we're actually proactive before we get to that point of shut-off of contacting them from ourselves outbound to make sure that we've done everything that we could before we get to that point. And that has certainly whether they're putting in payment arrangements or any of that type of stuff has certainly benefited the citizens to a large degree. That remains in place with this agreement. That's part of the ongoing discussions that we've had with Armada, even though they certainly do some of those services as well and not necessarily do a cost to the city. We've asked to and have discussed with them, the staff still having the ability to do those contacts and handle those folks that we know that we need to handle. Clearly, though, in going through a number of instances, there are a number of other items in here that don't even get into necessarily water and sewer bills and that type of stuff that, quite frankly, we don't have a lot of recourse for. It's, do we want to spend the money on the legal counsel to go after the accounts and do that, or do we want to keep our staff continuing after trying to get those collected without a lot of resolution sometimes? This is something that takes those accounts that just flat we're not getting any kind of response from and puts them onto somebody else's shoulders to continue to follow up with. The company itself is well known to AWC for the way that they handle the accounts and their closure rate because of the way they handle the accounts and the compassion that they have. And I think that shows in their rates and certainly does in their references that they have as well. So again, in bringing this forward, both myself and the staff are asking for an additional tool in there over and above what we have for those that we deem are probably collectible, but we're just not getting some response from in those cases. But I could tell you probably, RJ, 99.9% of those are not the folks who are struggling that may be your next door neighbors with their water sewer bill.
Yeah,
Those-
no, that's accurate. I think our main goal is we do have accounts out there that are sewer only, which we don't have this recourse to be able to collect on by discontinuing services, and those that we do struggle with, water, sewer accounts, those things that you were mentioning, we're still going to work with those. Our intentions are not to send those type of people to this collection agency. They would be the ones that we haven't been able to collect on for a few years now, that we haven't no recourse to shut it off. We can file lien, but then again, that takes time for us to file the lien with accounting. So that's one of us out of the office for an hour or two a day and then come back to here. And then we're still waiting for the house to sell at that point. So,
John?
Just a couple things. How many people do we have that just have sewer?
I can get you a count on those, the accurate number. I'm going to say it's anywhere from 30 to 40 that are just sewer only.
30 to 40 people?
34 accounts.
34 accounts.
30 to 40 accounts, yeah. I have to get you the exact number.
Okay, so we're talking about passing this for the hire collection company for 30 to 40 accounts?
No.
Or-
No.
There are many other instances within
There's
the
many,
finance.
okay, but those are the ones that just have sewer, because that was the example that was given.
Yep.
Okay. We don't have a formal policy in the books at all, do we, about repayment?
Repayment as far as?
If someone gets behind on their water bill and they're like, listen, I can't make the full amount, but I can make $25 a month extra or pay you 25 or what have you to get caught up, we don't have anything formal on the books like that. That's up to the discretion of the city right now.
Is that,
That's the discretion of the.
See, I would much rather go that route and setting a formal policy and having that in place for the city rather than going down the collection route. I would much rather have something that we have on the books that here's the next step. So,
it still has to be collected, though. Sometimes in the end, it still has to be collected.
right.
Molly?
I would rise in support of this agenda bill,